Here's a quick video on our 1953 Sailfish 14 Deluxe made by Alcort. These were made before they came out with fiberglass boats. That's why it's not called a Super Sailfish, even though nowadays people would look at it and say it's a Super Sailfish because it's 13 feet 7 inches wooden. That was the Super Sailfish, with the later fiberglass boats being 1960 vintage. They're called the Mark II, Super Sailfish Mark II. So what made this boat deluxe over other 14-foot sailfish was they added a rub rail and a tow rail, and they also added what they called the Dri-Dek coaming, splash guard, V thingy, whatever you want to call it. And what we found sailing this boat is these are pretty good additions, especially the little tow rail helps you keep from sliding off the side. You can kind of wedge your tailbone up against it, and the little rub rail on the side gives you a handhold all the way around this boat to get back on board if you capsize, which you will. And speaking of capsize, you'll see some videos if you search for capsize recovery. And one of the best ways to get back on this type of boat is just to go over the stern. Just board it from the stern here and crawl forward instead of trying to hoist yourself up over the side, because your weight will naturally push this narrow stern down a little bit, and the board, the boat will tend to stay flat, versus if you're trying to have to reach all the way across and grab the outer edge and pull yourself up that way. So, but like I say, if you decide to go that way, then you've got this nice hand grip all the way around to help you get back on. Some of the ways you can tell, and we'll just call it Super Sailfish for now, from a standard sailfish, on the handrails or foot rails there's 3 loops, and on the shorter 11-foot 7-inch standard sailfish there's only 2 loops. So that's one of the ways. A little bit wider beam, I think it's 36 inches versus 30 on the standard, which you can see one hiding back in there on the right side of the shed to the right of the runabout. The Sailfish 14 Deluxe also started coming with a more standard bow handle like you might see later. It's got this little flange bit on the aft part of it. It's chromed, whereas some of the deck hardware before that might have been a little bit hodgepodge, whatever they got locally that they could put on. And at this point, I don't know if they did earlier, but certainly at this point they started moving to Wilcox and Crittenden hardware. This would have been bronze, would have been chromed bronze. One other bit you can see is how the bow handle wraps along the front of the bow, and then there's another keel strip that runs underneath about 16 inches aft. So chromed bronze, and then the deck hardware like the cleats and the rudder assembly is also bronze. So we're gonna get this boat cleaned up and see if it'll fit in the hire garage.